Nandi Nyembe didn't ask for charity, she asked for work. The veteran actress's viral plea exposed an open secret. South Africa's entertainment industry discards its legends like props after a curtain call. While the minister's personal donation is commendable, it's a bandage and a hemorrhage. SAMRO owes artists 76 million rand in unpaid royalties, and most actors retire into poverty. Jack Devnarain, chair of the SA Guild of Actors, has called this a system designed to exploit. Jack, when icons like Nyembe must beg for scripts at 65, who's really failing who?
The industry is flawed, deeply flawed, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of political will to address that or to correct the fracture within the industry that keeps people like Mam Nandi in a state of desperation.
Now, there are many questions that are being asked, and one of those is, why hasn't the Guild established a hardship fund of sorts?
The South African Guild of Actors is a registered non-profit organization. We are run by volunteers, and we are, as a national organization, we attract members by standing up for the commercial, professional, legal rights and the contractual rights of professional actors. What we need is social security. In the same way that you have unions that are able to establish funds, SAGA is not a union, and in fact, this speaks to the heart of the issue. Freelancers in this country are not protected under the Labour Relations Act. And because we are not covered under labour laws, it means we can't establish a union, we can't establish standard rates, we can't establish benchmarks, and we are denied collective bargaining rights. So ultimately, this is one of those flaws in the industry that, as a guild and as a non-profit organization run by volunteers, it means we are unable to do that, and legislation doesn't allow us to do that.
Now, the million-dollar question is, what are the obligations, both to government and to the artists themselves, to protect their own interests when the time comes when you're no longer as fashionable as you were? I mean, we've had multiple conversations with football players, for instance, and other athletes, right? So there is a season where you can make huge sums of money. Certainly some of them can. Whose obligation is it to set aside a little bit for a rainy day, if you will?
It falls on two sides. Firstly, for the performer to demonstrate some responsibility and accountability for managing their own finances. And I have to say, freelancers in this country are probably some of the most responsible, because we know we have a precarious and irregular income. So the money that we do earn has to be treated with the greatest care and responsibility. The other side of that same coin is that we have to have a right to earn royalties. And that means our work, every time it's repeated or licensed around the world, there should be a residual income, and that forms an important part of our earning capability. Royalties are a reality around the world. Actors are earning royalties anywhere you care to think of, including in Africa. But until South Africa actually implements a statutory royalty right, we will have many such examples as Mam Nandi.
Now, you're probably more suited to talk about this than I am, but if we go back several months ago, Hollywood was at a standstill because various players that contributed to Hollywood and to movies, script writing, and so on, felt they were being hard done by. Is this where actors or artists in South Africa should go in order to be heard or to be listened to?
Absolutely, and again, it points to, are we protected under the Labour Relations Act to form a union? In South Africa, we are not allowed to unionize as freelancers. If we were allowed to unionize, we would have done so decades ago. And we would have established all those important regulations that protects our income, that protects our social security, and that helps to formalize our work in the creative sector. In the US, they are allowed to unionize. And so when they have the kind of disagreement that they had that resulted in industrial action, they have the right to do so.
Jack, you have the world that is listening to you right now. Mam Nandi, I think a great illustration, probably the voice that needed to be heard, because many people have stopped and listened, including the minister responsible, Gayton McKenzie, who's given 20,000 rand, from what we understand, to support the cause. Is this the perfect time to raise the issue?
No, I think we have to be careful not to exploit for the sake of headlines and media attention what we can extract for ourselves in order to grandstand at the cost of somebody's suffering. So I believe that this is a matter that has to be looked at as a structure, as a creative economy, and it has to be viewed as an industry. If, as you mentioned earlier, if we are going to be addressing the plight of one actor because of her suffering in one instance, then we are missing the bigger picture. So what is the bigger picture? The bigger picture is that South African actors need to earn royalties. We need to have formalization of our rights. We need to have social security that is built into the structure of a regulated industry. And until we have that, we will continue to be missing the point, and we'll be sitting across the table from each other talking about another great veteran who has been betrayed by a flawed system.
I'm bringing in the issue of Cwetwe, the 7-year-old, right, whose issue has rallied South Africans across the country and driven people to act. Very similar, if you will, to draw parallels with Mam Nandi, who's highlighted the plight of many actresses who are where she is. And the issue is that it has the attention of many South Africans across the country. Is it not an opportune time, right, to rally not only behind her, but around many other artists that are calling for the issues around unionization that you were speaking to, where the minister acknowledges that there is a challenge? Is this not the perfect time to start those conversations or move those conversations forward? Well,
I think that's the key, is that these conversations have started many years ago, and performers are asking what's being done about it. Because it's very tempting to suggest that perhaps the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture needs to step up and do something. I dispute that. I firmly believe that the conversation needs to include the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, the Minister of Employment and Labour, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, the Minister of Social Development. And if we are not engaging all of them together in some kind of interministerial forum, again, we are asking the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture to act outside his mandate.
Fair enough. I want to come back to Mam Nandi and the plight that she's raised, the issue of, give me a script, right?
Yep.
Don't feel sorry for me, I'm still able, right? Now, invariably what happens is, as you get older, younger people step in and are able to do the same that you do. In some instances, for less. And sometimes individuals come in that are very talented, right? How do we safeguard what might be viewed as the inevitable? Or what are the other challenges that Mam Nandi would be facing as an actress who's gotten older?
Mam Nandi should be in a comfortable retirement. And the work that she's done for over 30 years should be giving her the kind of residual income and annuity retirement income that should keep her comfortable and that should be paying for her medical bills. It is our failure as an industry, firstly, to formalize our work, to make sure that there was fairness in the way Mam Nandi was treated and every actor is treated. There should have been fairness in the contracts. There should have been the right to earn royalties. All of these things are still up in the air. And you wonder, but how is it 2025 and we are still engaging in this level of discussion? Around the world, actors are unionized. They are benchmarking their rates so that somebody coming into the industry has a firm starting point. In South Africa, we are on a race to the bottom. So any new talent who comes into the industry is cannon fodder for any profit-seeking producer and broadcaster who simply wants to exploit this person's talent, knowing that they don't have a background, they don't have a history. They're going to start them off at the lowest possible point. And they will keep them there for as long as they are in the industry. And whoever comes after that will be earning even less.
How united are you as artists in South Africa?
I think most artists, because we are forced to work under a freelance legal framework, under a freelance regime, means that we are unable to mobilize in the kind of way that unionized workers can. Unionized workers will be able to gather under a single banner, under a single union. They would be given communications by their shop stewards. They would be given very clear directives as to what their demands are. And it will all be mandated by the workers themselves. But in the freelance industry, we don't talk to each other because we haven't created the structures for doing that. And we have to be careful not to victim blame. And, if we're being kept as separate and in fact competing with each other, where if Hugo says he's going to do it for 100 Rand and Jack says he'll do it for 50 Rand just to get the job, it means we are undercutting each other. Who wins? The producer wins, but you and I both lose. Because you will never be able to get the job for less or for more than 50 Rand that I offered. And this is what we have to try and improve in our industry, or just to accept that until our rights as workers are formalized, until we actually have some form of regulation in the form of collective bargaining, we will always be racing to the bottom.
And who's going to create the regularization that you speak of?
The Minister of Employment and Labour. That's why I raised the point earlier that we have to be careful not to ask the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture to act outside his lane. It is not up to Minister Mackenzie to confer upon us.
He's a great conduit. I mean, if he feels for the cause,
yes,
right? Because
yes,
he represents many of you by and large, and the fact that he's taking money out of his own pocket, and he's a forward-thinking minister, right? What are the chances? I mean, have you had a conversation with him?
We have.
Is this a perfect time now to reinforce that conversation that you've obviously had earlier? And what has his response been?
Well, the minister, I suspect, is trying to get his head around what needs to be done. But let's also remember that at the funeral of Winnie Khumalo on the 18th of January earlier this year, the minister made the statement that says he's going to have the issues of this industry resolved this year in 2025. And to quote him, not 2026 and not 2027, but 2025. So we would be very enthusiastic and excited to ask him, how far has he gone in achieving the kind of regulatory processes and structures that you need in order to bring in the fairness that we demand?
Final thoughts. Is the industry deliberately exploiting veterans?
No, but I believe that there are profit-seeking entities like broadcasters and like producers that need for us to be unregulated in order for them to exploit the most that they can out of talent. They need to make sure we are not unionized. They need to make sure that we are living off donations and people's generosity. They prefer for us to be going into our old age hoping that there'll be handouts, because people, this is the brutal truth, people make money out of other people's suffering. And for whatever's being done now, let's remember that Mamnandi has had a very fruitful and productive career. Why are those producers and broadcasters not the first ones to step up and say, we owe her? It shouldn't have to be government. She's worked for it.
Very important question indeed. Jack Devnarain, chair of the SA Guild of Actors, speaking to us around Nandi Nyembe, whose video has gone viral, and she's asked not for charity, but a script.